Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I know it's been quite a while since the last time I posted, being around 7 months ago I believe. However, we're going to be trying to get back into posting more consistently. It won't be super often, but it will be more often than once every 7 months, hopefully. So, we have that to look forward to. Today's video, we're just going to be making a Roblox obby from scratch. Obbies are super simple to make. There's very little programming required, and obby making, the bulk of making obbies is just building your stages. So that's what we're going to be doing today. The obby we're making today is just going to be a really bare bones, basic obby. If this video does well in the future, I'll do more videos on how to add game passes, dev products for things like skipping stages, saving player stages. There's all sorts of extra stuff like that. But let's jump right into making this obby. So the first thing we're going to want to do is build the spawn area for our obby. Basically just where new players spawn in and start the obby when they have not completed any stages yet. The lobby, you could call it. For this, I am going to make it about this big. You obviously don't need to follow how I am designing this, because when it comes to actually building any of the stages, of how you want your stages to look or how you want the obby to look, that's entirely up to you. I shouldn't be following the tutorial exactly. Do that however you want to make it look. But for me, I like this size. I am now going to change the color and material of it. I'm going to have my obby sort of have biomes for each stage. It's going to start off as like a grassy one and maybe a desert, just that type of thing. You can do that too if you want. You don't have to if you don't want to. If it was a bigger obby, I would probably change biomes every 10-15 stages, but since this is just a tutorial and there's going to be very few stages, I'll be changing biomes every one stage. But I've made my spawn location transparent and built my little start platform. Next you're going to want to select both of these and click anchor at the top of your screen, so that your parts don't fall, because now we're going to delete our base plate. So that we just sort of have this spawn platform floating in the void for players to start the game on. Because obviously if the base plate was there, it wouldn't be much of an obby. Now if I'm going to make my first stage here, I'm going to Control D my platform to duplicate it. Just going to make this about that big. Drag it over, and I'm just going to do some little platform jumps for my first stage. Just 4 jumps like that. Drag my lobby over here again, for this will be their little part that's in between stages for the checkpoint. And then our first stage is done. I'm going to change the color of this to a light orange and make it a sand texture. I'm going to have a desert as my next biome. Now what we're going to do here is just test this stage to make sure we can make all of the jumps. Because obviously you're going to want to be testing as you're building throughout your obby to make sure that you can actually complete the stages you're building. So as you see here, I might move those tiny bit closer because you can just barely make them. I also want these to be a little bit smaller by the looks of it once I'm actually playing. So here that is. Just gonna check that that's centered still. Then much smaller gaps this time. And there we go. So see, the testing just completely changed the way the obby looks, and now it's going to look quite a bit more to scale for people who are actually playing the game. Yeah, so as you can see, that looks much nicer than it did a second ago. Easier jumps, and the parts are a lot more size that they should be compared to very large jumps. Now what you want to do in between stages is you're going to need to create some sort of checkpoint system. What I'm going to do for this is we're going to make a custom checkpoint system. Instead of using the Roblox team system like a lot of obbies do use. First thing we're going to do here is we're going to add a part. I'm going to name this checkpoint underscore and then whatever number the stage is, so 2. Not sure why there's a weld in that, but you can delete it if there is. You shouldn't have one there, but I did, so I'm just going to delete that. Now I'm going to make this however I want my checkpoints to look. I don't want my checkpoints to be a full block tall or full stud tall, sorry. So I'm just going to change that to about 0.5. There we go. Also going to make my neon so they stand out so that the player can actually get the checkpoint, so white neon. And now that's quite visibly, you'd be able to tell it was a checkpoint if you were playing an Obby. Now what we need to do is have a way to track what every stage that every player is on. So inside a server script service, I'm going to create a new script. I'm going to call this checkpoint script. First thing we're going to do is say game.players.player added connect function player. Now we're going to say local leader stats equals instance.new folder inside of the player, and then leader stats.name is equal to leader stats. Now if you want in the top right everybody to be able to see what all the other players' stages are, then name it leader stats identical to this. If you don't want the stages to be displayed in the top right, and you don't want people to be able to look at other people's stages and see what your stage is in the top right, then you can name it anything else. I would just name it stats or leaders or whatever you want to name it. Next we're going to say local current stage equals instance.new int value inside of the leader stats. Then we're going to say current stage.name is equal to current stage. Then we're going to say current stage.value is equal to 1, so that they start on stage 1. So now if I press play, we should have a leader stats in the top right hand of our screen, which will display current stage of 1. There we go. I'm actually going to change that, so instead of saying current stage, just a stage. So now in the top right, it will actually fit the full word instead of cutting it off. Now, what we need to do next is be able to update players' checkpoints whenever they touch a new checkpoint. So inside, instead of having this just out in the workspace, I'm going to create a new folder. We're going to call this folder checkpoints, exactly how I spelled it. I will do a lowercase p. We're going to drag the checkpoint in this folder, and every single checkpoint in this game is going to go in this folder. Now what I'm going to do is say at the very top, or down here, we'll say local checkpoints is equal to game dot workspace colon wait for child checkpoints. Now for underscore comma checkpoint in pairs checkpoints do. So this is a for loop, and it's going to go through every single item in this checkpoints folder. So like here we're getting our checkpoints folder, and then here we're going to loop through everything inside of this checkpoints folder with checkpoint representing whatever part we're on. So now if I say checkpoint, also we're just going to rename this to the number 2 quick. We don't want anything but the number in the name of the checkpoint. So we're going to say checkpoint dot touched colon connect function touched part local player is equal to game.players colon get player from character touched part dot parent. Now this is saying this is going to run this block of code on every single checkpoint in the game because of this for loop. And this is saying whenever the checkpoint is touched, we're going to get the part that touched it. We're going to we're going to set a variable equal to that part's player if it is a player. Now we're going to say if player then, so if it is touched by a player then player.leader stats dot stage dot value is equal to 2 number checkpoint dot name. So this is saying if it's a player, set the leader stats value to the checkpoint's name. We gotta have this little 2 number in here because the name of the checkpoint is currently a string value. We need to convert it to a number value. Now what you also may want to do so that players can't go back and lower their stage is say if player then if player dot if 2 number checkpoint dot name is greater than player dot leaderstats.stage.value, then input that inside of that if statement. So now we're only going to update the stage if it's touched by a player and if the checkpoint they're touching is greater than the player's current stage. So now I'm going to test this. We're going to hope this works. If not, I'll go through the script and figure out what's wrong with you. I never make my scripts first or come up with how the scripts are going to work first before I record the videos. I get a general idea and then I code it as I'm making the video so that you guys can see when you're coding, you're almost never going to do anything perfectly your first try. You're going to have to go back and fix errors. As you can see here, that did not work. So as you can see here, table expected got instance. What line was that? We're going to use our output to debug this. Line 12. Checkpoints. So what I forgot to do is say checkpoints right here is just equal to the folder. We don't want to loop through the folder, we want to loop through the children of the folder, so we have to do get children. So at the start of our for loop here, it says in pairs checkpoints, change checkpoints to checkpoints colon get children with open and close brackets. And now if we click test, this should work. Beat our first stage. And that's a typo. That is my bad. Like I said, you can run into a lot of issues when you're doing stuff like this, especially typos when you're trying to do it quickly. So as you can see right here, I typed the leader stats wrong. I'm just going to highlight that and make sure I type leader stats correctly everywhere else. And I did, so now if we test it, it should actually work this time. Third time is the charm. There we go. As you can see, when I touched it, my stage updated to 2. If I keep touching it, nothing happens because it's already 2. So now we have it so it tells you what stage you're at. However, if you were to die and respawn, you would still spawn back here. So what I need to do is say that there are a few ways you could go about this. You could do, instead of kill bricks killing you, and instead of falling off the map killing you, we could put invisible parts that teleport you back to your current stage. What I'm going to do is say it lets you get killed, but then whenever you spawn in, it's going to teleport you to your current stage if it's not equal to 1. So up here in our players added section, we're just going to add a couple comments here. So 2 dashes adds comments. This doesn't actually do any code. This just is for you. It tells you what bricks do, so I can say create leader stats, and now I know what that section does. Down here, I'm going to say update current stage. Down here, we're going to say respawn at checkpoint. So what we're going to do is player.character added. So whenever a character is added, connect function and get the character. So since this is under the players added event, for every player in the game, whenever their character is added, so whenever they respawn, we're going to run this block of code. So we're going to say if player dot, well, we could do, we'll do it this way just to be safe. If player dot leader stats dot stage dot value is not equal to 1, then character dot humanoid root part dot cframe is equal to game dot workspace. Actually, here we're going to take this checkpoints variable and move it to the top here so we can use it up here as well. Is equal to checkpoints open square brackets and then player dot leader stats dot stage dot value dot cframe plus cframe dot new 050. So what this does, it says whenever the character is added, so whenever a player's character spawns, if they're not on the first stage, we're going to set the location of their humanoid root part to the location of their checkpoint 5 studs up so that they don't get caught inside the ground in the middle of that. So now we're just going to test that and make sure that actually works quickly. So I'm going to run over here, beat my first stage, so I was to fall and die. Typo again, I forgot the R and C frame. Usually I'm not this bad with typos, I'm not sure how I'm messing this up this bad. So now that I fixed that, load back in, do the same thing again, run over here, get to the second checkpoint, jump off the map. Now we should hopefully go back to the checkpoint. Vector 3, okay. I wasn't sure there. I haven't made a teleport thing in a while, so this second one here, where we're doing plus cframe.new, you want it to say plus vector3.new instead of cframe. Let's come over here. Try this one more time, this should hopefully work. Jump off the map. Okay, so sorry about that, I wasn't sure why that wasn't working, but in between our if statement, the check, I changed this so the check if it's greater than 1, and then we're going to add a wait, and now it's working. So in this little block of code here, just look at this, make sure this is exactly the same as I have it in yours. We change this to a vector 3, added a wait statement here, and change this to greater than 1. So now I'll show you if we test this. Run over here to the next stage, boom, jump off, and we respawn at the second stage. It also matches the rotation of the part since it's using C-frame, so since you saw I was facing that way, if I really want to make sure I'm facing the right way, I could just rotate that like that. Now if I spawn, I'll be facing forward. Now another thing a lot of obbies have is kill parts, so I'm going to be showing how to make that too. We're just going to create a bit of a wider platform here from the walk across, match it to our sand, and now we're going to insert a part here. We are going to go over here, going to make this part, it can stay like that. I'm going to make it a neon material. Neon and red is what most games use to represent a kill brick. It stands out. It's pretty obvious if you see this in an obby that it is going to kill you. So that is what we are going to do. Plus it just sort of matches the desert theme there. We'll make that go about there, drag this out slightly longer, and there we go. That'll be the second stage. So what we need to do here is create a script that makes it so you die when you touch these parts. I am going to do a script in every single part. There's a more efficient way to do it, but we're going to keep it simple by just doing a script in every part. So what you're going to want to do is put a script inside of your killed parts and say script.parent.touched :connect function touched part, local player equals game.players :get player from character, touched part.parent, if player then player.character.humanoid.health is equal to 0. So as you may see, this is almost identical to our checkpoint script when we're touching the part, except instead of changing the leader stats value, we're going to set their health to 0. Now I can just rename this kill script, copy it, and make sure it is pasted into all of our other kill parts. And now just to show that the checkpoint will work for another stage, we're going to drag this over here. Say my next biome is an icy biome, we'll do a snow instead. we'll do the sand texture again, just white. Now it's like a snow biome for our next one. Drag our checkpoint over, and then rename it to 3, because this is stage 3 that we're entering. And now let's click play and give the obby a go. So as you can see, we can jump, 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 get stage 2. Touched our kill part and we died. Then we respawned at stage 2, facing the correct way this time because I rotated it as I showed you. Now we can jump, not touch the kill parts, touch the checkpoint, stage goes up to 3. And now if I try and go back and change back to stage 2, as you can see I can't go back to stage 2 since we implemented that one line that makes it so you have to have a stage that's less than the stage you're trying to switch to. And I'll show you to make sure if we die on stage 3. And we spawn back at the start of stage 3. So that right there is an obby. If you wanted, you could add a couple extra stages. I'll just add one more here to kind of add a little bit to this. So say I wanted to add a wide, thin jump stage. Is that centered? Yeah, that looks centered. Boom. Maybe move him over 1. Copy the color. Make it sand. And now I'm going to go like this. We'll make these slightly easier to land on. Like this. Like this. And like this. And once again, we could add our, I guess I can just duplicate this with the checkpoint. Drag it over here. And then say this could be like our win area. We'll do like a neon, maybe not a neon, that's painful. I don't know, we'll do like a gold brick for the win area. Say we name this stage 4 so that they just respawn when they hit the win area. Then that would be our completed obby there. So that is pretty much all there is to making obbies. Obviously a lot of obbies have game passes, dev products for skipping stages. You may have your stages saved when you leave the game. But what I've just given you is the fundamentals to go through, do what we just did, design all sorts of cool stages, and since it's not using the Roblox team system for checkpoints, you can have an unlimited amount of stages throughout your obby. I hope you all enjoyed this video. That was a fun one to make. I enjoyed that. If this video does well, or even if it doesn't, I might actually complete this obby and release it, just so you guys can play through and see what it's like. I'll add all sorts of stuff and I'll record development, maybe do a stream on it. But I hope you enjoyed the video. We're going to be trying to post more consistently from now on, because this is my first post in a while. But that is it for today, and I'll see you all next time.